Hey, it's Nick Delphi hitting you up with more messages from the void, and I'm going to be doing a tarot pick a card on what it is that your guides want you to know right now. And I did specifically pick these with the intent of connecting with the guides of whoever chooses the piles. So this is pile 1, this is pile 2, and this is pile 3. Hello, pile 1. Thank you for attending this meeting of messages from the void. So let's see what your guides want you to know right now. So from the Pluto Oracle deck, which is representing some sort of shadow, you got the snake. From the Dreamweaver's Oracle deck, you got underneath the lizard's skin and let your dreams be woven true. Interesting. And then a couple more oracles I pulled just because we got a time for healing from the Moonology and integration from the Synchronicity deck, I think. And then for your tarot, we have Ace of Wands, what do you know, with a lizard in it. Four of Pentacles with a reptile. Basilisk, oh, what do you know? I don't know what a basilisk is, but it looks like it has a reptile tail. Judgment in reverse. Six of Pentacles and King of Cups. I'm going to leave this one to the end because I think it's pretty important. But I'm going to stick it off to the side so that we can actually see these other cards. So off the bat, I think that right now your guides, whoever your guide is, which I think that this card might be representative of your guide. It could be representative of other people as well. If I'm really thinking that it's representative of your guide based off of the other cards. When I was pulling these cards, I was specifically asking for your guide, whoever chose pile 1's guides to come through. So off the bat, I think that right now you are going through a pretty rough time, an intense transformation. And I say transformation because of all of the reptile energy. And I have this lizard on my hand, snake on my hand, and I got it because they're representative of transformation. This snake and reptiles, they shed their skin when their skin is no longer good for them, when it's time for new skin, complete renewal. So in my book, reptiles always symbolize transformation, and transformation that is uncomfortable, but when it's over with, it feels good. When it's over with, you feel brand new. So, and then this card and this card they do both mention that exactly. They mention difficult, uncomfortable transformation. This Ace of Wands, sorry, this is supposed to be reversed because I think that what's happening is you are in a period of intense transformation, difficult transformation, but you're not wanting to go through with it. You're not wanting to actually take a look at it because, so this card is representative of there is some sort of energy, and hey, look at that, it's another lizard, but there's some sort of energy, you can feel it. You can feel this energy being given to you from, it's there and it came out of nowhere, but you don't know what to do with it. You don't want to do anything with it, or it's like an energy that you're really not feeling welcome about right now. You're not wanting to deal with this new energy that's being presented to you. And then over here with this Nine of Swords, I think that there's something about you have, I don't know if you have just recently come to terms with, or if something happened that made you think about it, or what is going on. But for some reason, you are right now likely thinking about parts of yourself that you aren't a huge fan of. And if we look at this another way, because this one talks about how snakes are representative of feminine energy as well as transformation. And when I think swords, I think masculine energy. I think honestly, because swords are all about communication, and obviously the gender stuff, it doesn't really matter because honestly it's changing all the time. The expression of feminine and masculine is changing all the time, but we know right now, okay, when people say feminine and masculine, feminine means more in touch with emotional, intuitive things, and masculine a lot of times means more in touch with logical, feminine is like internal, masculine is external, or whatever. It's like kind of thing. It's complicated, but whatever. So the feminine and masculine doesn't really matter. But I think with this, when I think swords, I think of what people call masculine energy, because it is about communication and conflict, and like it's your external expression of what's going on in your head. So I think and I think that this King of Cups is talking about this as well. But I think that what's happening is you have, for some reason, become painfully aware of your masculine qualities in such a way of not a gendered way, but like your logical, possibly critical, possibly overanalyzing type things. Like you have become painfully aware of that side of yourself and how it's not necessarily serving you, or how it has hindered your life in some way. And you're not wanting to, like, you feel this energy. I feel like, honestly, I feel like your guides are putting this energy in your path. And it's possible as well that for a lot of people watching this, that you were not ever a very spiritual person. I hope my fridge doesn't sound loud, because it sounds loud to me. Let me shut this door. It just got a million times darker in here when I shut that door. Anyway, so it's possible that you weren't a very spiritual person before. And now that's another thing happening right now. You're becoming more spiritual. You're becoming more aware. But even if you're not becoming more spiritual, you're becoming more aware of emotional, what's happening in your emotional body. And it's interesting. I always find it interesting that when people say like consciousness, raising your consciousness, and then there's criticism, there's backlash. Oh, like that's new age, whatever. Okay, well, guess what? Raising your consciousness and raising your awareness doesn't have to be like woo woo garbage or whatever. Like I'm woo woo, but you know what I mean. It doesn't have to be like talking about ethereal nonsense. It can be just your emotional awareness is raising, which is we're seeing that happen. A lot of people's emotional awareness and emotional bodies are becoming more conscious and more aware, especially with not only with the connectivity of the internet, but also with this like emphasis on mental health right now, and emphasis on analyzing why our mentality is the way it is. So and like I feel like we're in like a lot. When I think of this whole like divine feminine, divine masculine, what I actually think of is logic versus emotion. Is like the thinking about things from a logical perspective, overanalyzing things, which is like this right here, versus thinking about things or feeling things, feeling how things feel to you and stuff like that. And that, I think that's something that you're going through right now. And I think that you're not feeling great. I think you know that this process means that you are going to have to look at your past, how you behaved in the past, and you're going to have to come to terms with how that made you feel. And that seems extremely painful to you, because it is. And so you're hesitating, you're not wanting to go through with it. But what we're seeing, you're clinging on to the old way that makes you feel safe. It makes you feel safe to be more logical than emotional. But what I think is happening right now is I think this is being put. We've got a few cards here actually that to me represent this is being put in your path by your guides, or a guide, or maybe it's an ancestor. I don't know what it is, but it is some sort of guide. Okay, this one over here talks about believing in what's it called? Let your dreams be woven true. So it can talk literally about you might be having dreams that are messages from your guides or ancestors or God or whatever you want to call it. It can also be just talking about trusting and paying attention to the signs that you're being sent from the ethereal beings that are watching out for you. And not only trusting it, and paying attention to it, but just knowing that they're there to help you. And it's like this card also talks about allowing them to take on some of the burden, which is interesting, because then we come over here to this card, the Six of Pentacles, and this card often does represent, it depends on like you yourself, where you are in life and what's going on in your life. But if you are going through it, which the rest of these cards suggest that you are, then it talks about allowing support. into your life, understanding that you can't do things alone. So it's interesting to me because you have, and then this Judgment card. This card is also very much a reckoning with the universe, and in reverse, like universe, God, ancestors, guides, whatever you want to call it. But it's like a reckoning with the forces of the ethereal forces of nature. And you are in reverse. You are not wanting to do it. You don't want to do it. And then the Six of Pentacles over here is like saying, hey, we will support you. And this let your dreams be woven true is saying, hey, we will support you. That type of thing. And then that paired with just all of this reptile energy, I wanted to point out that and this card actually says it. It's crazy because when I was pulling, this is the metaphor that I was thinking of. And then I looked at the meaning of this card, and it actually does talk, like underneath of the lizard skin, it talks exactly about how I interpreted like the metaphor that I thought of, which is that with this reptiles representing transformation, it is obviously not a comfortable process for a snake or a lizard or a reptile to completely mold its skin, or whatever it's called. I'm pretty sure it's called molting, whatever. But to completely shed their skin, that's obviously not a comfortable process. But then when it is like, when you've done it, when you have the new sparkly, shiny scales, the fresh scales, it obviously feels good. It feels light. It feels like you've let off a load. And this is actually the entire reason that I want to do anything spiritual, the entire reason that I want to do tarot, the entire reason, like the way in which I want to help is really much all about, because this is something I do myself a lot, and it flippin' sucks. But it's also the best way to actually have, because I feel like that's what's lacking in like the spiritual community, is that people talk about toxic positivity, but to get more in depth into it, it really is like dealing with the uncomfortable parts of yourself is so painful and so difficult that most people will just repress it, and they'll say, oh, don't dwell on it. Oh, don't do this, don't do that. But the thing is, and I'm not saying dwell on it. I'm not saying, obviously, you shouldn't be beating yourself up. The reason people repress these things is because they're beating themselves up about it. And you should not be beating yourself up about it, but you should be allowing yourself to feel those emotions, to understand those emotions, to work through that process, whatever that means to you. There's a million ways you can do it, but it's allowing yourself to, be in that process that allows you to then transform. And once you get to the other side, I promise you, it feels a whole lot better. The problem isn't like weighing underneath of your skin. The problem isn't weighing you down in the background. It's, but the process of releasing it and of releasing the skin that no longer fits you it feels very painful. It does. I pretty much always put it off as well. Most people do put it off, but like these cards are essentially asking you, not only, they're telling you that it's time. You're not wrong. You're right. If you've had this like feeling, this bad energy, and you feel like it's coming from like a divine source, you are correct. It's confirming that. It's confirming that this divine source is wanting to help you, support you through this process so that you can have a fresh new start. At the end of the day, your guide, whoever this guide is, I think it wants you to work through this energy and they will support you through it, but they want you to work through it so that you can end up better off, get to the other side, and you'll have a whole new perspective, a whole new, like, you'll be changed after that. You mold your old skin and you're changed. You're a new, like, it's not like, oh, you're a completely new person. It's like, oh, I've let go of that garbage that was weighing me down for however long. And they want to support you through that. So that's the message from your guide. And that's essentially all I have. Thank you so much for attending this meeting of Messages from the Void, and I hope to see you next time in the Ethereal Abyss. Hello, Pile 2. Thank you for attending this meeting of Messages from the Void. Let's see what your spirit guides want you to know right now. We have Whitetail. I'm not doing these reverse because they're all supposed to be about shadow aspects. We have If the Wild Ones Come with Sticks. And if you hear a Sasquatch sigh, and then some other oracles, just because. We have Your Dreams Need a Practical Plan, Full Moon in Taurus, although I'm interpreting it a bit differently for this reading. And Perception in reverse from the Synchronicities deck. Let's move this over a bit. And then for your tarot cards, we have Ace of Swords, Ten of Wands, Death in reverse, Three of Swords in reverse, Nine of Wands, and Page of Cups in reverse, which that's kind of in the way. So I'm trying to do a closer shot, but then it also makes there be less room. So I don't know. I'm figuring this stuff out. Anyway, so the theme of what your guides want you to know, I think that recently you have had some sort of situation that was either it's a specific situation or it's you've had a lot of instances, little instances that are making you stuck in the energy of criticism towards yourself and others. So, but I think that for a lot of you, something has happened that was some sort of betrayal or felt like, so, because this card does often talk about betrayal and it does often talk about, like, a lot of people say it's like third party, the cheating card, but it doesn't necessarily have to be cheating. It could just be an energy of feeling like others are doing you dirty in some way and you are over critical of yourself and of them. So you might go back and forth between, like, what did I do wrong? What am I doing wrong that's making people treat me this way? What are they? And this card is actually very similar to if the wild ones come with sticks. What are they doing wrong? Why are they treating me this way? So it's like going back and forth between what are they doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And really being critical and over analytical of it. And I think that's where this one comes into play. Full moon in Taurus. I think it's kind of because the opposite. If you have a full moon in Taurus, then it's like Taurus or Taurus Scorpio opposition because it's a sun moon opposition. So it does come down to kind of logic versus emotions, which this card is actually either an elaboration or like the inverse, or this pile is either an elaboration or the inverse of the first pile, which I find to be very interesting. But this one is, I think it is more of an elaboration and it's more specific as well because it's like something happened. I think you found something out that made you feel critical of yourself and others. Something happened. You were, some sort of information came to you that made you question yourself and question others in the sense of basically we're kind of done dirty in some way, or something happened that made you go, am I wrong or are they wrong? That's the kind of thing that's happening. And there's a lot of like judgment and criticism coming with this as well, because this card talks about like gossip and stuff like that. And then this card talks about negative self-talk. Okay. So it's really interesting. We've got a lot of cards that are representing the same thing that are not like these two are from one oracle deck. And then this one is a tarot card, obviously. And then we've got this one over here representing logic versus emotion. And then what I also find interesting is that most of your tarot cards you have two swords and two wands. So that's intellect energy, and it's air, which is like intellect, and fire, which can be, especially in reverse, it can be very ego based. And when I say ego, like your ego is the thing that keeps you safe, which is like its defense mechanisms, its coping mechanisms, that type of thing. So this actually I want to get into these then too, because these two are obviously representative of, well, this one, death in reverse, is representative of letting go of the comfort of knowing, of transitioning into a new phase where you are not relying on what you know, what you understand. You're transitioning to a new phase where you don't have it. The way I'm interpreting it is your defense mechanisms, because then this card does talk about that type of thing as well, because it's whitetail. It talks about how they shed their antlers, which is the thing that protects them. They shed them and they just let it go. They just trust the process. So these two are kind of confirming each other. That what I think is happening here is that something happened, and we also have perception in reverse as well to talk about it. But what I think is happening here is that something happened or you've become aware of something that made you feel like it was you versus them situation. other people created a you versus them situation. More than likely, people could have done you dirty. You could have got cheated on, which, dude, been there. It blows. But in some way, you feel as though people are either judging you, doing you dirty, talking bad about you, something like that. And you are in this state of mind where you're thinking about it a lot. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this. This is what caused it to happen. And then maybe the next moment you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did this. How could they do this? Da 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 da. So you're going back and forth between, am I the villain? Are they the villain type thing? And I think what your guides want you to know is that that's not really the way to handle the situation. You're just going to continuously get caught in the situation. And we have an ace and a 3, interesting, with the swords, with the mental energy, and then we have a 9 and a 10 with the fire energy. Okay, so that's interesting to me, because I think what they want you to know, where this is going to lead you, if you continue on the path of criticism and over analysis and things like that between you and whoever these other people are, you will not end up in a place of happiness. You're just going to keep doing. It's not even end, really, because the 10 of Wands, it's talking about you feel as though you've succeeded in some way, but now you're alone. You've isolated yourself from others, and you have too much to deal with. There's too much to deal with. You can't do it by yourself. You're overburdened. And this one talks about giving up. So it's like, rather than being stuck in this energy of criticism on yourself and the other parties involved, they want you to recognize that that's just going to be a continuous loop, a continuous cycle that's going to cut people out of your life. And listen, I have recently been here as well. So, yeah, I feel you. But continuing this cycle of criticism of yourself and of others is only going to lead you to isolation, and it's just going to be continuous. You're just going to keep repeating it. It's a loop. It's going to keep going until you're completely alone by yourself and you have too much to deal with on your own. What they want you to do is let go of those defense mechanisms, which this is a defense. You might be a Gemini moon, dude, because I'm a Gemini moon as well, and that's a very Gemini moon thing, is to have to intellectualize your feelings. And that's how you instinctually want to deal with feelings, is to intellectualize them. But this is asking you, and your guides are asking you, to stop trying to intellectualize your feelings, especially with this Page of Cups in reverse. What they're saying is, hey man, it's in the back of your head. You're kind of repressing this emotional realm. You're repressing the feelings. You're repressing that kind of thing. So that you can, and you're trying to deal with it by intellectualizing the problem, and that's just not really working for you. You should be paying attention. Like, this can talk about meditative states and stuff like that, dreams, messages from your subconscious. Anything that's like a message from your unconscious mind is this Page of Cups, and you are not wanting to listen to this message from your unconscious mind. But that's really what it wants you to do. This is also the only cups in your tarot cards, and it's the only card in this entire spread that deals with water or emotional energy in any way, which is very interesting. And I think with this, ultimately, you intellectualizing this problem versus allowing yourself to get in touch with how you're feeling it's holding you back in a lot of ways, and it's a defense mechanism. It's the part of you're trying to protect yourself by intellectualizing it. You can't make sense of whatever just happened to you. Like, if somebody just did you dirty, or a group of people just did you dirty or are doing you dirty, you can't make sense of that. You can't make sense of the ways in which people disregard your feelings. There's no way to make sense of that. And there's no way to make sense of what you did wrong or what they did wrong. That you can't do that. It's not really a right-wrong situation. It's really you need to get in touch with your feelings. And what I think is happening here is that you don't want to do that, because the intellectualization, you're a highly intellectual person, it's a coping mechanism for you to intellectualize it. So to recognize your feelings would be a whole new territory for you. But I think that's what your guides want you to do, is to trust that you're going into, like, if you just stop trying to intellectualize the situation and allow yourself to actually meditate on it, get in touch with your emotional body, be present, feel it, your guides, I think, are saying, because with this card, it also talks about, like, these cards both kind of talk about, this one talks about like negative self talk. This one talks about, um, or like being in a negative mental state. And this one talks about external, other people being negative around you, gossip and criticism and stuff like that. So what's interesting about that is, and this is where I think you're going back and forth with it, who's right, who's wrong, and you probably go back and forth with this situation, and it's not helping in any way because nobody's right or wrong. But they also both talk about what happens when you stop being in your head about these things and trying to decide. Like, this one talks about when you stop talking about yourself critically. This one talks about when you cut the possibility of the way others are judging you or thinking about you. You cut that out, and then you can experience the beautiful things that are happening, the pleasurable things that are happening in your external reality. So and ultimately, I think that this is talking about this as well, because ultimately, I think what your guides want you to know is that intellectualizing this problem and going back and forth with it isn't going to help. It's just going to lead you to more anxiety, more criticism, more isolation. But if you let go of that, you trust, and you let go of that defense mechanism of who's right and who's wrong, you can get to, and you feel what's happening in your emotional body, and you can like meditate on it. There's tons of ways to do it. You can probably Google it, honestly. Then you will get to a place where you'll be able to enjoy the happy things, the good things, the pleasurable things happening in your external reality. And what's interesting is Taurus also talks about pleasure, because it's ruled by Venus, and the moon is most comfortable in the sign of Taurus. So because it is about like material comfort and pleasure and stuff like that. I think your guides they want you to stop focusing on intellectualizing the problem. They want you to get in touch with your emotional body, but the big part about that is body. So they want you to kind of, honestly, I don't even think, like, I would love to sit here and say that they want you to feel your feelings about it, and that's inevitably going to be part of it. But I feel like there's a message here of, you guys are so caught up in your head right now that you're not enjoying anything going on around you. And this is where I said this is like the inverse of the last one, because the last one was about kind of repressing your issues. This one is talking about dwelling too much on the negative parts of it, of like over intellectualizing everything going wrong right now. And instead, your guides want you to take a break from that and try to experience a little bit of pleasure, what makes you feel good, what makes you feel happy. And that can be like so simple, especially when we get that Venus energy. I mean, it's the moon, but it's Taurus. So it's like becoming emotionally connected to all of the senses, to things that look pretty, taste good, smell good. Like, just get in touch with the external world around you, the beautiful things about it, and get a little bit out of your head and out of like this critical energy of who's right and who's wrong. And that, like, to reiterate, I do want to say this before I call this complete. With these two cards, that is something that's not going to be easy for you, because I think you're used to intellectualizing all your problems. But when you get to the other side of it, when you allow yourself to just let it go and start to get in touch with what feels good and what makes you happy, I think that you'll find yourself in a better situation, and you may even be able to come at this situation, whatever's going on, from a whole new light that feels a lot better to you. Because you've just given I think your guides are really asking you to take a break from intellectualizing your current problem, and it's a heavy problem, and I am sorry for that. But I think they want you to take a break from intellectualizing it and just let yourself experience a little bit of joy and happiness, and maybe you can come back from a whole new perspective. But you gotta let go of your defense mechanisms of intellectualizing who's right and who's wrong in this situation. I think that's a big thing too. Who's right and who's wrong is a big protective measure for you, because I feel like you think there has to be one right and one wrong in order for, like, I think you think there has to be a right and a wrong. But there's three sides to every story: your side, my side, and the truth. And you never know how complicated the thoughts, emotions, and whatever of the people who are doing you dirty. And I'm not excusing them. There is no excuse for people who don't take into account other people who hurt other people. There's no excuse for that or whatever. Like, there's no excuse for I'm not saying hurt in any way, really, even if it's a silly way, like people are just being mean to you or calling you names or whatever. There's no excuse for that. But things are a lot more complicated than just right and wrong. And if you just get stuck in right and wrong, because every situation is so complex, you're going to find yourself in like a thought spiral that's not helpful. It's what's comfortable for you. You're used to it. It makes you feel safe, but it's not helpful. So I think your guides want you to step out of that and just trust that things will be better if you stop thinking about right and wrong for a moment and start, like, just having a little more fun experiencing your life, and maybe coming back later and seeing it from a whole new perspective. But also, there is a thing of, aside from just experiencing pleasure, there is a thing of getting into more meditative presence type states where you are paying attention to what's going on in your emotional body as well, which it will be fun, honestly. Like, sometimes it does suck really bad to do that, but then sometimes it's, even if it's like a difficult subject, it feels a lot better than intellectualizing everything. So yeah, that, I hope that made sense. Thank you so much for attending this meeting of Messages from the Void, and I hope to see you next time in the Ethereal Abyss. Hello, Pile 3. Thank you so much for attending this meeting of Messages from the Void, and let's get into what your spirit guides want you to know right now. So from the Pluto Oracle, which is about shadows, we have World in Reverse, which is very different from the Tarot World card. It's about shadow. It's literally about working with your painful shadow. And you have it in reverse. And normally I don't do these in reverse because they're about your shadow, but I think it makes sense for this one. So then from the Dreamweaver's Oracle, we have In the Middle of the Bridge. And for the Wind That Blows Our Sails. And then some other oracles, we have Step Out of Your Comfort Zone, North Node, and Coherence. And for your tarot, we have Three of Wands, Four of Cups, Six of Swords. This goes this way. Five of Pentacles in reverse, Knight of Cups in reverse, and the Hermit. So I think that the theme of what your spirit guides want you to know is that, first of all, you have just likely went through a period of reflecting on everything that you think you've done wrong, essentially. Like, I don't know if you actually have or not, but everyone has to do this. So it's not like a value judgment of, oh, you've just reflected on all the things you've done wrong. It's like, literally, everyone has things that they could work on and improve upon. But you just went through an intense period of what the kids are calling shadow work, with the Hermit here in the World. And I think it really relied heavily on, I think you're the Knight of Cups in reverse, to be quite honest with you. I think it's representative of you. I think you just went through a period where you reflected on all of the things that you regret, the ways in which you acted that you didn't want to act. You've done some serious inner work. And you might still think you're in this phase. I don't know if you do or not, but you're coming out of that, because that's what your guides want you to know, is that it's time for you to be done with that, and it's time for you to integrate everything you've learned. And what I found really interesting was that not only do we have every single suit represented here, Wands, Cups, Swords, and Pentacles, we have, it's in, like, if I were to rearrange this, wait, 3, 4, 5, 6, It's in order. And when you look at like the numbering system of the, let me make sure these are all. Yeah, dude, I can totally add this over here. When you look at like the numbering system of the minor arcana, it's representative of a journey for each suit. So, and then, so you have the numbers in a row and you have all the suits represented. So the way that I'm taking this is that you, when you went through this period of reflection, you have literally learned about every element of yourself. You've been through every aspect you've been through. We have, you know, maybe your ego, your desires, we have your emotions, we have your sense of security, we have your intellect over here. We've got everything represented. And then with the numbers, we've got the development of the energy, the structuring of the energy, the transition of the energy, and the rebalancing of the energy. Okay, so we've got like really you went through this full period. I think you were in an intense reflection period where you really went through everything that you wanted to change about yourself or felt you needed to change about yourself. I'm not here to say one way or the other what that was or like how, if it was necessary. If you feel like it was necessary, it was. I think your guides are saying it was good. You did a really good job going through all of the things that needed to be worked on, but they don't want you to get stuck in this phase. It's time for you to get out of this phase and integrate everything you've learned. You have hit it from every aspect, every angle. You intellectually understand this. You've really worked it out. It's time for you to get out into the world and integrate what you've learned during this period of reflection with this step out of your comfort zone and coherence. I really feel that your guides are saying it's time to put what you've learned to work. And then these cards, this one is about literally it's time to go out and embark on the journey. And we see that reflected with this Six of Swords. It's transitioning into a better place. So, and this one with this Five of Pentacles in reverse, it's except like getting past the feeling of isolation, scarcity, that type of thing. So it's being reflected back with these cards. It is time for you to get out and start incorporating. And then over here we have this one, middle of the bridge, is about you're in the journey, you're in the middle of the bridge, and you're looking at things from every angle. So you're open to all perspectives. So you're learning more essentially. So what they want you to do, and they want, there's a caution here with this Four of Cups of not getting stuck. And I find it interesting that it's the Four of Cups and then you're being represented by the Knight of Cups. So it's not getting stuck. The word of caution is like, don't get stuck up on the person that you used to be, the fears of, oh my gosh, if I go back out into the world, am I going to be the same person that I was before? They're saying, well, first of all, with this card, they're saying maybe sometimes you are, but you have a lot more knowledge than you did before and a lot more understanding than you did before. So this time around, you're able to work through those obstacles and overcome those obstacles because you have the knowledge that you didn't have before. You have the understanding that you didn't have before. So even if you do, like, don't get stuck up on, oh, what if I put myself back out there and come out? Because these are an intense period of, you probably haven't been doing a lot of social stuff. You've just been doing shadow work, shadow work, shadow work, reflection, reflection, reflection. And that was good. That was necessary. You learned a lot. But they're wanting you to now step out and actually embody it. Learn, like, you have intellectualized it. It's time to go out and allow the outer world to also teach you more about it, to integrate the intellectual knowledge with actual going into the world and acting on the things you've learned, so that, like, whenever the same situations, so this is about kind of, the Knight of Cups is like, I'm not going to say what you were or weren't, but I am going to say this. You may have reacted in a lot of ways emotionally that you don't really feel in line with anymore. And I think that you are afraid that if you put yourself back out into the world in whatever way, like you actually become a part of society, you allow your authentic, true self to show, and you are engaged in extracurricular activities, going out and etc. I think you're afraid that if you allow yourself to authentically go out into the world, then you're going to end up being like the Knight of Cups again. You're focused on the Knight of Cups, you're afraid of the Knight of Cups, but you're not seeing that you have all of this that you've integrated. And now, when the same challenges present themselves, where in the past you may have acted like the Knight of Cups in reverse, now you have this knowledge. So even if you don't in the moment realize it, like say a situation happens that brings this Knight of Cups energy back out, and you don't even think about it, it just happens. You now have the tools to be able to go back and be like, what did I do wrong in this situation? Because you have learned all of this. So you're able to go back and like integrate that knowledge, and the more you do that, the more it's not going to be a problem anymore. So it's really about, and then with this one, I think what's being stressed is, I'm sorry, my cat's playing with toys and I'm not going to stop her because she's cute. And this one, there's a need to pay attention to and be open to other, I mean, there's a lot of stuff here that's talking about openness, okay? But with this one, we have a need to be open to what you can learn from others as well. So to integrate what you have learned from looking within yourself, now you got to go out into the world and you have to actually interact with others and understand what you can learn from others as well. That you're not knowing that you're not, even if you do have a Knight of Cups in reverse moment, you're not stuck being the Knight of Cups in reverse. You've already learned all this knowledge. You have more understanding. So it's about going out and allowing yourself to also learn from the external world, from what other people are doing, to see things from all angles other than just your own. And you're ready to do that. You've already done all the internal work you need to do. It's time to get out and actually do it. And this Six of Swords, it like kind of confirms. I mean, there's a lot that confirms this one, because the Three of Wands and the Six of Swords. The Six of Swords is talking about, you've just been through a difficult period and now you're going to a better place. And then this Three of Wands is about, you got that spark that, so if we're going in order, the Ace of Wands would be like this desire, this energy came to you, right? And this was probably the energy of, oh, it's time for me to do some self-reflection, okay? And then the Two of Wands would be like, okay, how do I do the self-reflection, and doing the self-reflection. And then this Three of Wands is like, now I've done it all. Now I've learned all the things I wanted to learn. Now what do I do with it? And I just realized that there's a little bit of, I was like, is there a lot of fire in all these? But that looked like fire, but it wasn't. So, I mean, there is fire in two of them, which is interesting. But, yes, so I think that what your guides are wanting you to know is that you've already done all the work. You've done a really good job of learning and doing shadow work and working on the things that you wanted to work on. And now it's time to get out and to allow the external world to help you to integrate those things. Like to actually be the person that you have learned. Like you've worked so hard to figure out who you want to be. It's time for you to put that to practice and learn how to be that person. So that's pretty much all I have for you. Thank you so much for attending this meeting of Messages from the Void, and I hope to see you next time in the Ethereal Abyss.